All right, peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom. Peace and blessings, everybody. Today we're talking about the psychology of the breaking point, where we have our people that, well, not just our people, but everybody that finds themselves employed by other races of people, especially here in America. I don't know what it's like overseas, except for like Britain. I know they're kind of like the same thing that happens here. But we're going to be talking about a brother by the name of Jerry Motley Jr. And his nickname at work was called Black Jerry. And so Black Jerry, he worked for a white-owned company, and they really didn't treat him very good. I think the first thing we'll start by looking at a partial part of the video, and then we'll come back and we'll discuss that. So let's see. Whoops, hold on.
Is just racist, just flat out racist.
He posted on Facebook last night, and he came to work all weird.
Boss man makes black jokes every day. My name is Black Jerry.
But I just remember looking up, and I saw Jerry with the gun. He did one of these and pulled the trigger at my dad.
You guys, and I really hope y'all do that.
In Clinton Township, Michigan, an employee films his morning commute to work, ranting about alleged racism, bullying, and mistreatment by his coworkers. The last thing they ever expected was for him to enter the workplace armed with a gun and murder on his mind.
The kid didn't look like he had a care in the world that he just did any of that.
The following is based on official police records, and the footage has never been seen before until now. On the morning of January 9th, 2018, 25-year-old construction worker Jerry Motley Jr. begins recording on his way to the office.
So, now we're recording. I'm gonna tell you, like I told these motherfuckers, like, they just did, like, outrageous, racist bullshit. It's like time and time I come into work, just racist, just flat out racist. There's no giving. Dude used that word like a million times. Boss man makes black jokes every day. My name is Black Jerry. I'm the lowest paid in the company. Been there for a year. Pretty much good. And I got a best friend that works there too. So it's like, even my best friend sat there and pointed out a branch, like, oh, Jerry, which one you want to be hanging from? Him and Johnny. It's like, y'all like, think like doesn't like click. Like, y'all are ignorant. Y'all just think money is the power of everything. Really, a weapon is the power of everything. I'm just basically saying, you guys. And I really hope y'all do that.
Minutes later, Jerry arrives at his workplace. He parks his car and calmly heads toward the front door as he'd likely done every workday for the past year. But this time, tucked into a hoodie pocket underneath his jacket, is a fully loaded pistol.
Lock it. Where's Tom?
You shot? I don't know.
Look and see. Oh, God, he is.
911, where is your emergency?
I need an ambulance immediately at Reliable Fence. We got an employee that shot people.
Where is the person that shot him?
I don't know. We have 4 rooms back there, and when I'm in a locked room. I need police and I need an ambulance staff.
Okay, where I have everybody coming. Where is the victim?
He's right next to me, and I don't know who else
Okay,
he
is he?
shot. Who else did he
All right,
shoot?
is he breathing?
Yes, he's breathing.
Okay, where is he shot?
In the chest.
Okay, do we have anything to put on the wound?
He's got his glove against it now.
Okay.
Just stay still.
You,
His dad shot.
all right, who's the person?
He shot my brother. I have 2 people shot.
Okay, where's the other?
Brother, he's trying to leave. I need police now.
The dispatcher requests information about the suspect's car, but the woman on the line is unable to answer as someone delivers a crushing confirmation.
You mean my brother's shot?
Ma'am, take it. Okay, ma'am, take a deep breath. Ma'am, we have everybody coming, okay? Ma'am, somebody get on the phone with me, please. Ma'am, hello? Ma'am, hello?
What, Jerry?
As more calls reach dispatchers, they're able to learn from other employees that the suspect fled the scene in a gray Saturn.
It's a black male. He works with us. I don't know. He posted on Facebook last night, and he came to work all weird.
Okay. Listen, we got everybody coming to help you. Take a deep breath. What's his name?
Jerry Motley.
He shot Tom? What the? I have one
Conscious
person
and
that's
breathing?
conscious and breathing that shot. He's standing right in front of
Okay,
me.
all right, and what about the other person?
Other person's on the ground, looks like he's dead.
The Clinton Township Police Department arrived to the shocking aftermath of Jerry's rampage. One victim, Angelo Joe McCauley III, was treated by paramedics at the scene and transferred to McLaren Hospital with multiple gunshot wounds. In a back office, the business owner, 61-year-old Thomas Edward Batke, was found face up on the tile floor in a pool of blood, with a fatal gunshot wound to the head. The murder weapon, a semi-automatic pistol, was found near his legs, containing 7 unspent rounds. Several employees were brought into the police station and asked to describe for detectives exactly what happened.
We all gather in Tom's office in the morning to find out what we're doing for the day, and just kind of talk and see what's going on. And Jerry was just acting really weird this morning.
In what way? Was he not talking to people? He normally does.
No, yeah. Not talking, and his buddy Jeff in the other room was like his best friend, and Jeff said hi to him, and he's like, and just walked away, just mumbled something and walked away. And I'm like, okay, that's weird. Well, anyways, we're all in Todd's office to find out what's going on, and all of a sudden we're like, just thinking like, where's Jerry at? And then all of a sudden we seen the back door open, and then Jerry walks out like this.
Jerry pulls the gun out and says, "You mother, I told you stop with me." Blam, shots once.
I've been to shooting range. I know what it smells like when you shoot a gun. I'm like, what the? When he shot Angelo, you can hear Angelo hit the ground.
Lori, the deceased owner's sister, described what happened next.
I literally, I can play it in my mind. Into my view came Angelo, and he's like this, and he goes, "My God, that hurts." And Jerry was there, and I said, "What the hell? What's going on?" Because I heard the sound. Was a cat gun, firework? I mean, never in a million years. And he turned and he went this way through the door, and the door slammed and boom, boom against the door. And I was trying to push against the door, and I couldn't. I'm like, "What is going on?" Because I could hear it all against the door.
When he shot Joe, he was still going after Joe. He didn't have any intentions on going in the office because he was walking past the office. And I think that's when Dylan was right there and jumped on him. But when he was walking past the office, I could have sworn I heard him say, "I'm sick of this bull."
Employee Dylan then attempted to stop Jerry from firing the gun again.
I grabbed both of his wrists and threw him up against the wall, and I couldn't hold him forever, and I knew that. I held him for about 20 seconds, and then he found a way into the office, and Tom, at the time my boss, the second guy that got shot, he was trying to lock the door.
It was then that Jeff jumped in to help, but the struggle spilled over into the owner's office.
They moved into the office, and he still had the gun, and I looked, and my dad, since Jeff was on him, my dad saw that, and he went to grab his arm and try to get control of it so no one else got shot. And then I saw that, and they were leaning on my dad's desk. So I jumped on Jerry, and I put him in a chokehold. And I don't know where my dad was. I know he was in there somewhere, but I just remember looking up, and I saw Jerry with the gun. He did one of these and pulled the trigger at my dad. Then after that, Jerry had the gun like this, and he shot it at the wall, and then he ended up dropping it. I don't know if it was because I was still choking him, so I don't know if he was losing consciousness. Then after that would be him, and Jeff just fell to the ground in the doorway.
All right, so that was the, we're going to use that as the introduction. And then, so Doc, we see the introduction of the video telling us exactly what happened. Mm-hmm. Now, this was a year worth of racial harassment, extreme racial harassment, telling him, even his best friend Jerry, which was a white guy, he was pointing out and saying, yeah, we're going to hang you from this tree. We're going to hang you from this tree. And we'll see more of this in the video, but very, very extreme racial violence compared to 15 minutes of violence. How do you see that? You know, if you were a prosecutor in the DA's office, and this case landed on your desk, how would you look at this? Would you take the year worth of racial abuse into deciding how you're going to deal with this guy?
Am I deciding according to morality or towards my continuation of my position as a prosecutor?
Let's go for both. Let's go for
both. If it's me and I'm defending and I'm evaluating it as far as morality, I would definitely look at that as extenuating circumstances and could possibly be convinced that he was insane, that they had literally driven this man insane, drip by drip by drip, insult by insult, to the point where he finally lost it. Now, the other way, I'm taking it for granted that this is a white town or white area. And if I do that, the best that I would be willing to do for him is maybe if the state does have execution, the best I could do for him would be not to kill him and give him life in prison. That would be if I'm seeking to continue my career. Because quite simply, if you go against the lynch mob, they're going to get you when it's time to run the next time, because you could very well see a campaign with a slogan of "He let a black murderer off. He let a black murderer go." And do you want that type of person making decisions for you? So in many ways, those could be the two outcomes. And I would venture to guess that the second one that I talked about, which is quite simply life in prison, would be what ultimately was decided, because he's going to be looked at. And I believe that most black folk who are accused of such crimes, that, you know, some type of violence against white folk, are the equivalent of rabid dogs in the view of white society and need to be put down. And
Wow. Excellent, Doc. And we want to welcome Brother Willie Rivers to the program. Peace and blessings, Brother Willie. We're glad you're here with us.
Welcome, brother. Welcome.
So Doc, when we're analyzing, like they call them Black Jerry and these lynching jokes, the process of normalization of racial ridicule is like psychological warfare. How does this compare to, you know, back in the day when we began to start working for white companies? You know, how was that compared to what we know Black Jerry went through? How is that? Is it even on the same wavelength?
I would say it's on the exact same wavelength, that you're dealing with racial harassment every single day, and there is no escape from it. One of the things that I'll say, and I guess I'm going to answer this in sort of a roundabout way, and it is quite simply Dan Gilbert, the guy who owns, I want to say Quicken Loans,
Hmm.
who also owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. He said something this week that re-solidified that the world that they live in is so different from the world that we live in. The irony of it is that they're in often in the exact same space. It's a very weird thing that people can be in the exact same room, exact same conversation, and be impacted by things totally different. Now, Dan Gilbert, LeBron James is, LeBron was with the Cavs. Dan Gilbert owns the Cavs.
Hmm.
And this week, LeBron came out and had some disparaging things to say about Trump. These people, knowing that Dan Gilbert used to used to play for Dan Gilbert's team, chose to go on a phone calling spree, leaving all these voicemails and things in Dan Gilbert's inbox. And Dan Gilbert comes out and says, it was some of the most vile, disgusting things that I've ever heard. I can't believe that people still think, behave, and talk like this. That leads us to a question of what world are you living in, Dan Gilbert,
Hmm.
that you don't recognize these things?
Hmm.
And one could almost argue that there's two tracks. The first track is the track that Dan Gilbert takes, which is quite simply unknowing and unaware. He's deaf, dumb, and blind to racism in its operation. The second track is that you become desensitized to racial acts that are coming, these sort of microaggressions, if we can use that term, that you're actively doing to Black Jerry. This reminds me of the moment in the autobiography of Malcolm X. The chapter is Mascot, where Malcolm is talking about he was called nigger so often that he thought it was his name. There is a space that people can get into. In that space, to be honest with you, it can actually be occupied by even Black folk. And it is becoming so desensitized to those who are around you that you disregard them. You have no consideration whatsoever for them. I'm a 70s child, raised and reared in the 80s, and I can remember close family members using the term half breed
Hmm.
about biracial people.
Hmm.
I have I have a out of all the groups in the world that I have a bias against, my bias, my strongest bias, and if you ever want to hear a funny story, I can tell you why my bias is so strong against them, is against the population that they refer to as little people. I refuse to call them that. And many times my students, when I tell them the story, my students, they say, quit calling them. I guess it's called it's considered a derogatory term now. Starts with an N,
Hmm. Hmm.
but that's what they are, and that's what they'll
Right.
always be in the world that I was raised in the world that I exist in to this very day. One of my colleagues, I'll call him a colleague, he was talking about the idea. We were having this conversation about the idea of homosexuality
Hmm.
and how our generation was raised up within a church within a moral position, that was the one non-starter for us. And he says, well, I've thought about that a lot. And he's slightly older than me. And he says, you know what I decided was we've been taught to hate. And that's always kind of stuck with me. Yet at the exact same time, it conflicts with some of the other things. And I think that white folk have become, especially these backwoods, backwater, small town, and you know what? No, white folk in general have become so desensitized to how anyone else could receive what it is they're saying, that they just go through it with no regard, and there's no consequence to what it is that they're doing. Because the idea of referring to someone as Black Jerry, it's going to wear thin on 'em. And one has to really question the sanity of the brother to have a best friend who would talk about lynching him from a tree.
Exactly.
That's a whole nother issue. But your question in regards to, is this similar to what that first wave of integration occurred, what they experienced, those Black workers? I would argue the first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave. We all know, even though you can't prove it, we know that there's racial bias. We know that there's gender bias. We know there's sexual orientation bias. It's just that people are so slick in regards to how they do it. They actually enter into the situation with an idea of, yeah, I'm going to make sure they don't get this position or this promotion or what have you. But I have to do it this way. I can't do it from a position where they'll be able to come back and sue me and say anything. I recently had a situation where you're here, they're going to come up with a different reason. And you're going to find yourself in a storm of frustration. And so much of this reverts back to, and I think that that this is my thing and how I look at it. The most glaring weakness of the civil rights movement is actually the absence of an economic component. That you were in such a rush to integrate, let's say, lunchrooms, that you forgot that your integration of lunchrooms, and I always argue that we should have the right to go wherever we want to work wherever we want to, and what have you. But to stay focused on the idea of lunchrooms, once they were integrated, you should have never went again. Because every dollar that you spent at Crest, every dollar that you spent at Woolworths, where did you go prior to them being integrated? You went to the Black Diner. And all of those dollars that you're now spending within white corporations, it's weakening Black businesses, Black companies, and what have you. So the mistake of having the ability to go do business at a white company versus the need to do it was one of our biggest errors. Because ultimately what you're going to see is that you are integrating yourself out of any semblance of economic power that you had. That diner, and your uncle got a drug or an alcohol problem, but the owner of the diner would still hire him to clean up around there, would still hire him to do dishes there. There were Black cooks. There were all these jobs that go to the wayside simply because you didn't have enough sense to circulate your money within your community. And I yield, brother.
Exactly. I definitely agree. And on that wise, I want to ask you this. Do you think that the leadership back then understood that would happen? Or did they just not even care that this would be a severe blow to Black economics?
I think that what they were doing was so harsh, dangerous, and pressing that getting over the bar of being first class citizens, of being equal within this nation, was job one. The other issues like economics and jobs, they actually do come up, but they don't necessarily come up until non-Southern regions are going to be addressed by the civil rights movement. A place like Chicago. Chicagoans could always vote. So the question becomes, what exactly are Chicagoans getting out of the civil rights movement? Another place that we could definitely talk about is the Watts Rebellion. What caused the Watts Rebellion? Now, if you listen to the United States government, they'll tell you that Negroes just get hot every summer and they lose their minds and they go ahead and they burn down cities. That was their explanation for why American cities burned for like a full decade after Watts. The truth of the matter is that they're upset because the civil rights movement did not deliver tangible gains. They didn't deliver jobs. They didn't deliver more income. They weren't able to knock down the redlining that was occurring. And Dr. King, God bless his soul, when Dr. King decided that he would take his movement out of the South, he chose the wrong place to go. He chose Chicago. And he gets to Chicago, and many of his Morehouse classmates are on the payroll of Mayor Richard Daley. And they tell King flat out, we don't need you here. We don't want you here. And what King was trying to do was sort of highlight economic suffering of Black folk. And his own people did him in. When he would find a slum or an area that they were going to call the national media in to be able to see it, King's lieutenants would go and tell the Daily Machine they're currying favor with him. And they would clean it up the night before. So there really is no issue there now. So what you're seeing with this brother is a byproduct of Black folk not handling the economic aspect of the movement. And I would argue that failure has made us in many ways paupers, people who are out here with our hands out begging white folk for jobs. And if you're looking at it logically, a garage business, let's say a garage opening business. There was a guy I went to school with. His father had a garage opening business. And when the father retired, he took over. The view of white society is quite simply, I started this for my family. So who are you to come and tell me that I got to hire y'all? And in the realm of common sense, that makes perfect sense, because Black folk have a need for garage doors. So you could corner the market there if you just started your own. But we see a general lack of that effort of starting your own.
And so Jerry also talked, Doc, and where he said that you think money is power, but power actually is a weapon, a gun. And so he didn't have the money power, but he went out and bought that gun power to, I guess, to say he's going to make everything equal now. That when I heard that said in the video, then that of course in my mind went back to Mao Zedong, where it says power grows out the barrel of a gun.
Drop a gun. Yeah.
Mhm. So
Yeah, but
what?
he didn't say that. Bobby Seale says this. He says, but if you examine that quote very closely, Mao Zedong never says that power is the gun.
Mm,
He says it flows out of the gun, but it's not, because in many ways what you're looking at is, in the grand scheme of things, a juvenile tantrum.
mhm,
You've killed one white guy, you wounded another, but you've done nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, to change the balance of power,
mm,
to address the reason why you have to go to these white folk with your hat in hand, why
mhm,
you have to show up every single day and be insulted and denigrated.
mhm.
We have to, and this is one of the things that you know for sure, that the Nation of Islam has always been brilliant at. It is Black entrepreneurship. That should be probably the most discussed and taught topic within Black America today. I deal with brothers who are coming out of the penitentiary, and I tell them, honestly, nobody's gonna hire you. It's just not gonna happen. So let's start. They're not gonna hire you and give you a wage that is going to be sufficient for you to be able to head a household and have a
Right.
family. So
Mhm.
let's look at this differently. What can you do that would in every way allow you to create a living, make enough money that you could create what this guy on the internet, he refers to it as, and I love his term, your rich life, or a life worth living. How do we do that? And there's so many different things that you could do: washing cars, doing, all types of things. There's a service right now that I refuse to use, but it is a pooper scooper service
Mhm.
where these people will come to your backyard and they will pick up the dog shit, and you will pay them to pick up dog shit.
Mhm.
When I look at, of course, I'm in Houston, Texas, and so I see the day laborers. I also see the landscapers who have a lawnmower, two, three guys, and they will cut your yard for $35, $40. They're cutting that lawn in about 5 minutes.
Mhm.
And if you divide an hour by five, that's 12. That's 480 out $80 an hour. It may not be the most
Mm,
glamorous type of work. It's $480 an hour.
mm,
So there has to be a retooling, because if Black Jerry has been working for this fencing company, this is one of the things that I tell my students: go in there and do the job, but learn the job.
right.
Learn how to do it with your hands, but also pay very close attention to how do they get business,
Mhm.
because there's a lot of Black homes that need fences.
Right.
Can you figure out that, how to get business, and how, because let's be honest that there is a race is the tie that binds Black people.
Mhm.
And I would venture to guess, I haven't done a scientific study or anything like that, but I would venture to guess that upwards of 70 to 80% of Black folk want to get black craftsmen to work, to do their work, to put a fence up, to come in and do some home improvement. So if you're capable, you're able to do it. It is a competitive price. We'll even pay a little bit more because you are black.
Right.
You could have a corner. You could have a monopoly upon that business. But we have to think that way.
Definitely, definitely. And I want to take time out to welcome Twin Paramedic to the program. Peace and blessings, Twin. We're glad that you're here. Um, Doc, why is there this legal double standard where the law recognizes heat of passion for some, but labels the 12 months of racial trauma as premeditation when it comes to Jerry? Um, I would have thought that that would have given some ground way because this is the reality that Jerry had to go through. And it wasn't like the police didn't know it. When we watch and see during the interviews, they're going to tell like, yeah, Jerry was picked on. Yeah, we said this, we said that. But, it is what it is. Without us, he wouldn't have had a job. So when they're looking at these different terms, crime of passion, okay, yeah, we will give you a little leeway. Premeditation, nah, nigga, you've been thinking about that for a long time. You're done. But the reality is, he was put into a pressure cooker and it broke him.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that not even considered plausible?
He's black in a white town. If the law is anything, the law is not blind. And that's what it comes down to. You have such room when you're a prosecutor, when you're a jurist. You have such room to allow your own personal bias, your own judgments to be included. I was talking about this ironically, maybe an hour before we came on. I'm in Kansas City with my in-laws, and one of my sister-in-laws, Naima, she's named after the John Coltrane song. She's an attorney, speaks several languages and what have you. And I asked her, I said, "Have you ever been called for jury duty? We happen to be watching Dateline." And she said, "No, they won't allow me to do that because of my background and things like that." And so I told her a story of a guy. I ended up being called for jury duty and had to serve over Christmas break. And the case was a guy, he was a police officer, and he looked like, if you could think about casting for Goodfellas, one of these mob movies, he had that swarthy look, like the 5 o'clock shadow going on. And he was accused, he had been arrested and was being charged with pistol whipping his 15, 16-year-old neighbor, okay, a white girl. And he was drunk when he did it. I wanted to be on that trial so bad because I knew he did it. I could tell, I could look at him and say, "Oh yeah, he did that. He looked like the type to do it." Now, is that proper? No. When they ask the question of, would you want someone who thinks like you to be sitting on your trial if you were facing these charges? Of course, the answer was no. But I didn't say that because I got good sense. I'm getting ready to strike a blow for the race. Okay, he's going to jail. No, he's going to prison behind what he did. And during voir dire, they asked me this question about how do I feel about, because all of the black people who went up to be questioned before me begged out of it, talking about I'm a Christian and I don't believe in drinking, and so I couldn't judge him, properly. Oh, please, I don't have those issues. Ask me. And so they asked me. I said, listen, with the things that our boys in blue go through, I believe that they all should be allowed to stop by any bar and get them a drink to decompress from what they've seen throughout their day. Man, I'm answering the questions perfectly. And they put down on that sheet of paper, they put my number down, number 27. You've been excused. And the rule is you have to just get up and you have to leave. They had an elevator, and man, I cut a fool. What I say wrong? How come I don't get to be on the jury? How come, and the judge, he said, you're getting ready to go to jail if you don't just get up and leave. So there's a lot of room involved in having the ability to make a judgment. Thank you, sir. Having the ability to make your judgment calls. There's some wiggle room there, man. Paul Mooney, the great comedian Paul Mooney, he said, go on up in front of them white folk and tell them that you're scared, that you got multiple personalities. And see if they don't tell you, well, pick who you want to be, because somebody dying here today. There's a lot of room there. So Black Jerry is in the wrong place, to be honest with you. He's working the wrong job. And the conversation that we can have is, and this takes us back to what I was talking about earlier, the civil rights movement. The conversation is quite simply, why is he forced to work that job? And the harsh answer is quite simply because there's no one Black who cared enough about Black society and was able to figure out a way how to navigate to create their own company, their own. But you ain't doing rocket science. You're putting up fences.
Right.
So why hasn't someone who has worked there? Because I guarantee you, they probably always had, taking us back to what Malcolm said, they've always had a mascot Black employee. Why during all of this time that this business has been open, 2 or 3 of these disposable Black employees didn't come together and say, look, this is what we're gonna do.
Right.
Because let's be honest. We know how to get some money. There's some people in our community who got some money. You need to go find Avon Barksdale. You need to go find Bumpy Johnson and say, look, we need 20 grand to start this and we'll pay you back. Now you got to pay them back.
Right.
But that would be a start for you.
Wow. One thing dealing with old Jerry, and they were calling him slow. They put it like, we're doing this slow boy a good favor because he deserved to be fired, but because we got to take care of him, we got to think for him, we got to baby him. It's our duty to do this. That's also problematic, and it's a situation where we as a people definitely have to understand that, we have to be able to do for ourselves. Do you think that Black Jerry should have realized that, I need to leave this city, that he needs to get up and physically move to a different city? Do you think that that's a thought that should be raining down on our people that are in cities like that, where there's a majority white rule and it's just, it's off the hook?
Of course you would like for that to be a thought, but let's be fair and honestly say that a person like Black Jerry, and we know that there's so many Black Jerrys in our midst. These Black Jerrys actually remind you of Richard Wright's native son, Bigger Thomas. They're hardworking, good-natured individuals, but by and large, they're not able to really get anything going. And one of the reasons they can't seem to get anything going, if we're being honest about it, is
Hmm.
quite simply they're marginally educated. And many of the things that people like us would say, well, why did you just leave? It's kind of an impossibility for them to
Mm.
leave. They're not going to be able to do that. So the idea of someone just up and leaving everything they know is maybe not possible. Maybe that's not the appropriate answer. So best case scenario, yeah, you would love to be able to say, yeah, the brother should have just got up and he should have left. All of that is true, but at the same time, is it realistic? And if you take that conversation and that line of thinking a step further,
Hmm.
should he have to?
Mm.
And the answer to that is no, he should not have to. However, the the hard part of it is quite simply that it's white bigotry and racism that puts these brothers in these situations where they have to make these decisions. And this bigotry and what have you is in every way, it has shadowed them. And Malcolm says this perfectly. He says, if you want to know about me and you want to understand my story, you can't just look at me. You got to look at my father and my father's father and his father. So the economic impoverishment, the lack of a quality education, the absence of mentorship is something that is real and something that needs to be addressed and talked about um, in a significant and serious way.
Mm. Well, Doc, I want to give you this point. And first, let me know if you agree with it. A man can only take so much. When you push a man to the wall, you take away his reason.
Break is because they have another outlet. They have
Mm.
something else in their life. I think about my grandmother, and as you know, I had three grandmothers. My James Thomas Jones, the senior, he was married twice. And so I'm talking about his second wife, Fanny Jones. We called her
Mhm.
Granny Fanny. She was a janitor, a custodian at a department store called O'Neill's. I'm pretty sure it was O'Neill's and not Lazarus. Marginally educated, even worse paid.
Mm.
And she said this to me. She says, I know how these white folk, and this is a Christian woman, how these white folk mess with me. So I can only imagine how they mess with you, being accomplishing the things that you're doing. So that lets me know that she caught some hell at her position,
Mm.
as marginal and menial as it was. Yet at the exact same time, she didn't break because she got her esteem, her self-esteem, her self-respect. She could that happened on Sunday morning when she walked into Greater St. John Church of God in Christ. She was a mother of the church there. She was somebody in that arena, somebody that was very important, someone who was revered. A man is most dangerous when he has nothing to lose. If this brother
Mm.
had some children, if this brother had a mother that he had to take care of, any of those things, it would have been a game changer because he could have had something that could hold him down to reality
Mm.
versus allowing these people to become so central and so influential and so powerful within within his position. That's an issue. So I understand where the brother was at, and I understand why he did what he did, and I understand what they're going to do to him, which was, if not kill him, you'll never see light of day again. And
Mm-hmm.
one has to ask themselves, how many years of your life did you trade for 1 year of built up of anger to be siphoned off like you're letting the pressure go off of a boiling pot?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Doc, how do you think, or better yet, when we're looking at the black populace, us as a people,
Mhm.
um, do you see that there'll be a point where we as a group will get to that pushing point, or would it always just be individuals reaching a pushing point? This when the British, when they was all over in Britain and they got to their pushing point and they wanted to come over to America and make a new country, because look here, we're tired of your foolishness. So they got to that breaking point and then they went to war on it, right? That same situation with us. When do we reach our breaking point and are we willing to go to war on it?
But you have to remember, reframe what you started talking about. The British come here to settle the North American continent because
Mhm.
Columbus has discovered the West, quote
Mhm.
unquote, discovered the West, and all of these nations are coming. Those who rebelled, these aren't the same people. These are people who are, these would be the great grandchildren of the first settlers. Okay.
Okay.
You're dealing with what, 150 years between and many people try, they trace the settling of the North American continent to Jamestown. When you're dealing with the British, that's incorrect. It's not Jamestown. It's Roanoke. Roanoke failed. We call Roanoke the lost colony. And the oldest city on the North American continent is St. Augustine, settled by the Spaniards. You know, Florida was Spain, was controlled by the Spanish.
Mm.
So you're talking about individuals, and I think I like your analogy, but in a different way. These are people who aren't British. They've never been to Britain. They don't know anything about that. All they know is that the British come and tax them and house their stuff, and they don't have a political voice. That deal that was made by great grandpa. That wasn't made by me.
Mm.
So that adds to their angst and their anxiety. They have no connection to Britain. Now, the problem with that when you're dealing with black folk is that black folk believe that they are tenuously Americans or full-fledged Americans. Some of them believe that this is their country, this is their nation. And yet they never take a couple moments to really think about what does it mean to be an American
Mm.
by from the lens and the viewpoint of power brokers, because that's what really matters. What do the powerful say is the position of what Americans think, what they believe, what are their values, what is their language, what is their religion.
Mm-hmm.
If they could get that list and then go down that list and try and see how many of them are beneficial to black folk or even neutral to black folk. Because when you talk about patriotism, they're talking about supporting white ideals and white viewpoints. They're not talking about black folk or
Mm.
any black thoughts.
Right.
So the problem, one of the main problems that we have is quite simply that those are the people who have taught our mothers. And our mothers are, you know, women are the first teachers within the home. So if you have a woman who believes that she is American, she's going to teach her child
Mhm.
that if you work hard and do what you're supposed to do in school and what have you, you can make it in this land. I don't disagree with that. I believe that something should be added to that, which is quite simply, but you won't be free
Mm.
because you're making it in this land means that you have become a cog in that machine. And even black folk, and we've seen it with Oprah, we've seen it with whoever you want to name that is notable and has a bunch of money. They're capitalist. And capitalism, I don't care if you put black folk at the top, capitalism is never going to uplift the vast majority of black folk. It's just
Mm,
not going to do it. It's not set up that way.
mm,
Fatal flaw that Americans and capitalists have is quite simply that enough is never enough. There's someone right now who is probably a multi-billionaire, and he's number 53 on the list of richest people in the world.
okay.
He can't sleep at night because he want to be in that top 50.
Mm,
Now, there's nothing more he could buy at being in the top 50 versus being at 53.
mm,
But it's something about, I need to get in that top 50. I need to be on that list. And once you get on that list of the top 50, guess where you're aiming for? 25. If I get 25, I can get 10. And somewhere along the way, you lose perspective. You lose an understanding of what life is really about.
mm.
So do I
That's,
think that we'll ever get to a point in mass where we'll come together? No.
mm. Yeah, that's very interesting, what you brung up there about capitalism. Because it was like a couple of weeks ago, I was telling a friend of mine, almost the exact same thing when it comes to your credit report number. You
Mhm.
know, it's like you're constantly chasing this number, constantly, and it got you in a rabbit race. And it's like you'll get it this minute, and you'll lose a few points the next minute. And just seeing the stress on people to try to keep that number up.
Mhm.
When I said, no, I'm not getting in that rat race. I don't give a damn what it is.
Mhm.
I'm just not going to do it. I refuse to do it because I'm looking at them, Doc, and I'm literally seeing them, go up and down, stressing this. I got to do this. I got to do that. And it's like, you don't understand. You in a trap.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is that one has to wonder what influence and how much influence is healthy when you begin to talk about someone being able to point out and tell you something, that something is better than something else,
Mm-hmm.
and you buy into it as if you're a devout believer. We see it all the time. It's what marketing is based upon and predicated upon. The the big blowout that we saw, which to this day just cracks me up, those purses that were over there in China.
Mm-hmm.
They came out and said that if it can be made in China, but marketed and sold as Italian, if they do 1% of the construction of the bag in Italy. And what they were doing is they were actually sewing on the label,
Mm,
sending it here. And it's
mm,
the exact same purse that the brother is selling over here to swap meet that he got directly from the Chinese. You just want the Italians to put that on there so they can charge you 20 times more.
mm-hmm. Exactly.
So there has to be, scripture says, as a man thinketh, so is he. There has to be a reckoning and a coming to God on an individual basis about what do you value and why do you value it. And until we as a people individually are able to do that and sync up with each other, there really isn't much hope. And we have to get to a point where I think the best that we could hope for, because we're not all going to get on the same page in regards
Mm-hmm.
to anything. I think the best that we could actually hope for is a idea of socially responsible individualism, that you go ahead and go for yours, yet at the exact same time you remember that there's a duty that you carry to help others. because especially black folk, no man is an island. None.
Exactly. That's the truth. When we're looking at paternalism versus empowerment, the owner's family described Tom as a kind man who was just trying to help a slow black boy.
Mhm.
Often, Doc, in labor history is the narrative of a benevolent white boss used to mask the reality of exploitation and ignored abuse.
Well, but I think that both of those things can be true at the same time.
Mm,
That you can go ahead and there are some people who I would refer to as hardcore employables,
mhm,
who, if the playing field were completely level, they would never be selected. They would never be able to get employment. And we have these agencies that train the mentally challenged to get employment and what have you. That's true. Yet at the exact same time, it is also very true that you can put people, regardless of their race, regardless of what it is, through absolute positive hell on a daily basis. And they break. And when they break in a way that is not socially acceptable and they lash out at you.
mm,
Now, no one will talk. And you heard the slip up that the guy, when he was talking, when they were saying, all the chaos is going on. And he says, yeah, Black Jerry did it.
mhm,
That's normal language for them. And
mm,
you don't understand how offensive and demeaning that is going to be for that person. You don't
mhm.
know how they're going to receive that. And you don't care either. It's what
Correct.
y'all do, is what y'all say, and what have
Mhm,
you.
mhm,
It's he reacted in a way that he knew how to express his anger and his angst. He wasn't that marginally educated that he didn't know how to lash out, that he didn't recognize that what you guys are doing and saying about me is wrong.
mhm,
And you've had a year to cease it and stop it.
mhm,
And the idea of him having to do life because he's reacting to your actions is ironically an extension of what life has been like for him as a black man.
mm. There was this video, and I don't have it queued up because I would show it to you. But he was this black guy, I would say maybe 21, 22. And he was going back and forth with the white cop. And he was like, I'm just so tired of being a black man in America. I'm tired of it. You make me tired of being black. And it was like, damn, the way he put that, Doc, I mean, I felt that literally. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm tired. You make me tired of being black. And this is a young guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like at some point, the volcano may explode.
Certainly.
And where they're looking at the older ones to
Hmm.
be the explosion.
Hmm.
Because I would have expected an older black person to say that and not a younger black person to say that. Because the older black person been here longer. So they would have,
Yeah.
had to put up with much more
No,
than
but
the younger.
the older black person was raised up within a community with an understanding of these are the wages of blackness.
Mm,
That being black and poor in America comes at a cost, as Big Crit would say. Younger folk, they aren't equipped for that because they've been raised up, number one, in integrated schools. They've been raised up receiving the exact same messages of materialism and consumerism that their white counterparts have. And if they don't have a black elder or mentor who's able to explain to them the game and what's going on with the game, they're going to feel cheated and disheartened because this ain't right. Whereas we look at it as, well, it's just white people, white people. They don't look at it that way. They've been raised up in a different situation. They've been raised up in an era of racial denial that we don't see color. They're allowed to date across racial lines with very few people saying anything about it anymore. We're at a point in this nation where the public face, and when you think about this, you'll know that this is true. Companies wouldn't dare advertise. I don't care if you were selling aspirin. You ain't gonna advertise your product with a interracial couple before the last 10 years. So they've been raised up seeing this racial interaction. And often they don't understand that there's a subdiscourse that happens. You could take the leader of two, take Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, and put him in a room with Putin. They would shake each other's hands and they would talk nicely and civilly to each other. And the entire time, like, man, I wish I could kill this motherfucker. Okay. Until you have someone who can really explain to you the idea of subdiscourse, of being that we talking about something, but we really ain't talking about that right there. And I really hate your stupid ass. Our people believe them. Our young people believe them when they hear them say, "Well, I don't see race. I don't see that at all." And yet, these are the same people who will bypass them when it's time for them to get us a chance at a scholarship. One of the greatest examples of this, in their suffering the consequences of this. There wasn't a poll that said that Donald Trump was going to beat Kamala, because all of them came out and said basically, "Oh well, she has a plan and this and that and blah blah." They knew good and goddamn well they wasn't gonna vote for her.
Right.
There's something about the privacy that one in private, then you get a chance to see who they really are. And our children, by and large, they feel as if the rights are equal and going to be applied equally. It's the reason why, like the young lady I was talking about with the Crown Act, she really believes that she can go up into any company with her hair looking any kind of way, and they're going to say, "Oh, the Crown Act, we can't discriminate because of the Crown Act." You're living in a fabled fantasy world, and it's just what it is. So a young man who is saying those types of things, of course, he hasn't been through the decades of war that older African Americans are, but they're running head first into a brick wall without a helmet, full speed. So when it hits them, it's personal and it hurts. It hurts their soul. It hurts their entire worldview about everything. So that's why you see that type of reaction. Man, why are y'all stopping them? And it's not as if people of our generation didn't feel that.
Right.
But we knew not to say it.
Mm. Mm.
Can you imagine? Have you watched some of these
Mm.
YouTube videos, especially with the sisters, who tell the police what they ain't gonna goddamn do, and you ain't gonna reach it till you shut my car door? Could you imagine? You know how they, you know why did they whoop Rodney King the way that they whooped him? He didn't do what they be doing.
Mm-mm.
And the only
Mm-mm.
reason that we can talk about Rodney King, everybody in Black America know, oh, them type of ass whoopings was common.
Right.
You know, there was a
Mm-hmm.
brother who was got into it with the police right outside the barber shop I was at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, think about this, okay? And when you hear it, I guarantee you will wince. Okay, he's going back and forth with the police, this, and that. They finally tackle him. They handcuffed him. They put the handcuffs on with him behind his back.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to get him, they set him on the curb because they were dealing with somebody else as well that he had been fighting with. Set him on the curb, and they're like, you know, when it was time for him to go to get in the car, he refused to get up.
Mm.
They grabbed him handcuffs and went this way on him.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mm. Good Lord.
They done broke all this loose.
Ugh.
Yeah. So we seen when they say to get up, you better get up.
Mm-hmm.
Versus I ain't going. Siri, I saw one where the sister yelled out, "Siri, call mama." What mama gonna do when she get there? All you doing is stressing her out. Mama know not to come around there. Okay, but that's what you're seeing. You're seeing they're raised up within what we would term a very permissive society and moment. When they look at these things that they see on YouTube or somewhere on the internet, they believe that they have the right to do that.
Mm.
You have, I mean, you come on, you ain't got to look no further than the sovereign citizen movement.
Right.
What brother you know driving around in the 1980s, 90s, even the 2000s, driving around with no license plate on, no license, no insurance, and will look at the police and say, "I am not driving, I'm traveling," and expect to go home that day with their car.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different context. So when you're looking at young people who are destroyed and devastated because of, you know, something, that's what you're seeing. That's
Mm.
exactly what you're seeing. And this brother right here, you know, he looked like he may have had some developmental issues and what have you, and they just pushed him too far
Mm-hmm.
because he doesn't do what we would do, and many of us still do. Hey, nigga, fuck you, honky,
Right.
pickle, cracker.
Mm-hmm.
He's completely defenseless because in many ways he probably has been taught not to use that type of language.
Definitely. I want to show a little bit more of this video and come back and discuss it.
All right.
And I remember looking up to the right, and I just saw my dad laying there. I could tell he was almost passed out because he started gagging. I kind of let off because I didn't want to kill him. You know what I mean? But I sat there telling him, I was like, "You just killed my dad." Because I knew right away when I saw him laying there that there was no.
Did he say anything after you said that?
No.
Did he?
No, I got up. Since I was the first one to get up, I walked out front because I didn't know what to do. Because I deep down I knew what happened, but I didn't know what to do.
It was then that Jerry, just as casually as he entered, made his way back to his car. However, he didn't make it far. Just 1 mile down the road from the business, Jerry lost control of his vehicle, slamming into the rear of a flatbed truck. Despite not wearing a seatbelt, he survived and was seen by the truck driver crawling out of a shattered window, fleeing on foot.
The worst fricking state to live in right now is New Jersey, and nobody's talking about it. I've spent 30 years in the...
Well, Stan.
And it's just crazy because, like, this morning I was asking what was wrong with Jerry, and, you know, Jeff told me, did you read his Facebook status?
The night before the shooting took place, Jerry took to Facebook, leaving a cryptic post that hinted something dark was lingering in his mind. He detailed several incidents, writing, "You can't talk to another human being like that," then stating, "I put up with it for a year, no more."
Like, I was reading it, and it was just like all the people that gave me a hard time and this, and that, and I think he's talking about Joe.
Was there a history of Joe giving him a hard time? I mean, that you saw.
All right. Joe has done a lot of things to everybody. Okay. He's grabbed me by my neck and, you know, choked me up one time at a job.
Joe the owner?
Nope. He's a worker.
Okay.
He's grabbed the owner's son by his neck and choked him up just for stupid little bickering arguments, and he's done it to Jeff. And he always picked on Jerry.
Angelo is kind of a bully, really, honestly. He'll, like, flick cigarettes at you, he'll throw at you, he'll just do all types of stuff to, like, kind of take you off.
Right.
And picks on Jerry the most, so I could see why he was the first one shot.
According to the owner's son, there may be a reason Joe hasn't yet been fired, despite the allegations of abuse by his co-workers.
Sounds like Joe's a big dude. He's not small.
Mm-hmm.
Is he that meathead? Is he that guy that's got to pick on everybody, flick cigarettes at everybody, call names?
Oh, yeah.
You been there a long time? Worked for your dad?
Yeah, 17 years.
Wow.
My dad's known him since diapers. He's best friends with his dad. That's why, I mean, Joe's caused fights around there in the past 7 years I've been there. Me and him butted heads a few times.
Does he keep his job because of the relationship between your dad and his dad?
Oh, yeah.
Why I think he shot Tom is because nothing happened. We've brought to Tom's attention that Joe is... Nobody likes Joe there. Everybody will tell you that. Nobody likes Joe here. We tolerate him. He's for everybody. You know, he's just a cocky dude, you know? Just thinks his don't stink.
In part of Jerry's recording, filmed prior to the shooting, he made it clear why Joe was a target.
And Joe, the reason I shot Joe, because you're just ignorant. You're the mixture of racist and human. Always constantly yelling at me, telling me to do. I done did everything that you said, but you're still crying about everything. Saying that I ain't worthless, what the hell am I doing in this company? You sat there and antagonized me that one day, and I told you to stop. Like, man, you got me up. Then the boss man's gonna defend you.
Have people gone to the owners about Joe and said, hey, things you gotta stop? I mean, he's basically an
the last situation Joe had with somebody was with me, is when he grabbed me up on my neck one time, and I told Tom, look, I'm either going to quit, or you need to tell Joe, like, you're going to do something for him, like, get him help. And, you know, Tom told me I'm going to tell Joe to take anger management. I said, you know what, all right, I'll get over it. We're all family. We all got to work together. We've got to put roofs over our heads. That was it.
After wounding Joe, killing Tom, crashing his car, and fleeing on foot, Jerry was quickly apprehended when a Roseville police detective saw him running into a subdivision and successfully tackled him to the ground. He was then handcuffed by an officer with the Fraser Police Department, who later returned him to the custody of Clinton Township. He now sits with detectives, who will hear a haunting confession regarding his motives for the brutal attack.
I got the job through my best friend. Okay, my best friend is Jeff. Pretty sure you talked to him. Talked to him. But it just, something just didn't really feel right. Like, cause then he started completely being that whole, just screaming and yelling at me if I get something wrong. Oh, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're worthless. The way he was acting towards me, and he was like, you would never get a raise here, you're just a piece of and you're and this, every time we get in an argument, he reverts back to racism, and it's like I'm at a losing chance, and then whoever's with him, they're tagging along, they're laughing at the joke, so I'm just like a target, and it's just a constantly target every single day of my life.
Jeff, who explains he's known Jerry since high school, admits there was name-calling at the job site.
You know, there are times where, you know, there's racial slings back and forth, you know, he might say, or whatever, you know, or you know, he might say something about being white or something, you know. Everybody, even him, would shoot shots back, you know, it's just guys and guys, and then, like with me and him, our relationship, he technically is one of the whitest black people I know. He doesn't really like his kind either, per se. I mean, I guess you'd say back in the day, he kind of acts like it didn't really offend him as much, you know, when we were younger, you know?
In parts of the recording made before the shooting, Jerry speaks directly to his best friend, Jeff.
Jeff, let me tell you something. You are the most his best friend ever. The way you treated me when I first started at that company was overrage. Jumping around in the state truck, screaming, Nick, 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 Nick. Jerry, you ain't never gonna be nothing. My car broke down, so you had to come to get me. You just harassed me every single day you harassed me about getting my car. When are you ever gonna get your car? I don't want to drive you. All this other bullshit. If you ain't want to drive me, you ain't have to drive. But it's no point. I just sat there and you just screamed and yelled at me. It's like, yeah, I'm the boss of you and all this other bullshit.
This robotic puppy is so lifelike, it actually fooled my neighbour, who's a veterinarian. I've been a grandmother for 15 years.
I can't believe you.
Don't get me wrong, we all joke around. You know, it's a construction work, it's a bunch of guys,
right.
You know, both around, you're an idiot, you know, excuse my language, or whatever. You know, everybody picks on everybody.
All of my friends are Caucasian. All of them. And it's like I never in my life has been treated in a racial way really that bad. And it's like, it's not fair. And it's like, I even thought about, like, maybe I should quit. But something inside of me was like, no, they can't get away. They can't get away with this. Like, this is not right. Y'all already broke through. Like, oh my God, it's nerve-wracking. Just thinking about it, like, it's like, how do you treat another human being so bad and expect him to be perfectly fine with it when it's a constant thing when he told y'all multiple times to stop?
Jerry points to the nickname Black Jerry as a source of resentment, but employee Dylan shares their reasons for addressing him this way.
We do call him Black Jerry, but it's not because we're trying to be racist. We have multiple Jerrys that work with us. Okay. It's kind of just the easiest way. And he never told us that he didn't like it, so.
I'm the only black person there. Mm-hmm. And, like, I kind of, like, tried to bring it up to Tom, but Tom just, like, brushed it off. One morning I come in, and Tom, everybody's sitting there. They're just making black jokes. Oh, when you turn off the lights, you're going to see his teeth go. I'm like, that's not funny. He was like, and then they just, no apologies, just went on about their life. Like, are you serious? Like, that's bull.
Jerry shares a more specific example of something that happened between him and Joe.
One day I was extremely pissed off, like I wasn't having a good mood. And for some reason, Tom sent me with Joe, and Joe was just being and I was like, dude, can you just leave me alone? So I kind of got pissed off, and I went in the truck. He's hitting the window while I'm in the truck, just terrorizing me. And Jeff was like, you know he's not going to stop. I was like, he just needs to leave me alone. And he's all laughing about it, thinking it's all funny.
Outrageous, screaming at me. Oh, if I get something wrong, oh shit, you should already know this. You've been here for at least 2 months. I have a disability. I can't do that. I know it now. Now that I've been there for a year. You say, oh, I'm just doing whatever Joe's doing to you. That's not right. That's some bullshit.
Multiple co-workers acknowledged that Joe was particularly harsh with Jerry, but still couldn't believe he would take it to this extreme.
Jerry was...
All right, so there we have some more of what our dear brother Jerry was going through. I'd like to take this time out to welcome Miss Life Lessons to the program. Peace and blessings, Queen. You know, we're very glad to see you here. We got Brother Mac 28531. Peace and blessings, Brother Mac. We're glad to see you here. And so, Doc, as I say, we heard some more of what Brother Jerry had to deal with. And to me, looking at those white folks, they didn't look like they, really better than him. They didn't look like
No,
they
they're
were
not.
in better condition than him.
They're not.
So that leads me to what W. E. Du Bois spoke about, the psychological wage given to white workers to make them feel superior to black workers.
Mhm.
Do you see Joe, the co-worker who bullied Jerry, as a modern example of a man who uses racial aggression to compensate for his own lack of real power?
I would say off the top of my head, yes. But I also think that there's something else going on there. And
Mm,
that something else that's going on is as long as I'm ganging up on Jerry, on Black
mhm,
Jerry, the heat's off of me.
mm,
And the
mm,
the fact that this guy terrorized each and every one of them,
mm,
they're trying to stay out of the line of fire. So they're going to
mm,
attack Black Jerry and join in on all of those things. And they don't have a problem with it because in many ways what they're doing is trying to save themselves some anger, save themselves from being victimized. And this is, it takes me back to what I was saying earlier. When you think about the running of this company with these yokels, okay, we can definitely see who they are. You can't tell me that someone could not start a fencing company
mm,
and put them out of business because there's no
mm,
way that they're handling business the
mm,
way that it needs to be handled. There's no way. But in many ways, this is what happens when you have on the one hand nepotism, and on the other hand, you're so small that you don't even have an HR department because they
mm,
should have been shut down. They could have been shut down solely um, based upon that behavior, that harassment. And
mm,
in Twin Pyramid, you're absolutely correct. That's what they're doing. They're ganging
mhm,
up on one guy, and if they're ganging up on him, then that takes the onus off of them, the spotlight off of them, and the fact that this is a brother, and these are people who are poor, and you can tell that they're poor, and they're
mm,
poor in more ways than one.
mhm,
Yet they still have a sense of superiority due to their white skin, and they're
mm,
willing to remain and to behave as if Jerry is beneath them solely based upon racial identity. But they're
mm,
getting exploited and they're getting abused at the same rate that he is.
mhm,
It takes me back to Paul Mooney. Paul Mooney said that when he goes to a town and he would get ready to do his stand up, he said he would go around that city to just to sightsee. He said every time I saw a poor or a homeless white person, he said I started to cry because
mm,
my mind went to what a waste of whiteness.
mm,
And that's in many ways what we're
mm,
talking about, that this is a waste of whiteness. These are marginally educated people, unskilled people, and it's time for black folk to really look at them through that lens and say they're definitely not better than me. So
exactly.
we need to go ahead and branch off and create our own. And there's
Mhm,
nothing keeping you from doing that outside of there's this great line in The Invisible Man. And the line is keep that nigga boy running.
mm,
And that's in many ways what we
mm,
see with all black workers. They keep you running. Keep that nigga boy running. And Ralph Ellison's genius of putting that in there, it in many ways represents the status of black workers in general, but especially black workers inside of black corporations. You're going to be kept so busy, and you're going to be kept so impoverished that you can't even begin to consider or think about breaking away so that you can start your own.
mm. Wow. Doc, I believe that this modern time that we're in, we're going to see this breaking point, and we'll be able to see a rise of things that were unthinkable, actions that brothers may wind up doing because they feel cornered. But how do we shift the narrative from why did he do it to a narrative, well, why was he forced in a corner then? You know, because
You'll never
I
you'll,
think that.
you'll never be able to shift that narrative because they're the ones that are setting the narrative. They have the larger platforms. They can put that on MSNBC, Fox News, and what have you. They can put that on the New York Times. So the narrative has got to be, and this is sort of one of the great moments of Public Enemy, the rap group. Song is titled "She Watched Channel Zero," and Chuck is imploring you to turn the radio off, turn the TV off. We need to, in many ways, divest from the messages and the quote unquote education that we're receiving from
Mhm.
people who don't have our best interest at heart, regardless of what they look like.
Mm, definitely, definitely. Because I know, as we spoke before, and you were talking about that we have to manufacture consent.
Mhm.
We have to be able to push that message, and it goes into the hearts and minds of our people and begin to come out of their mouths, more and more and more, trying
You,
to make that process happen.
Yeah, I mean, if you listen to their evaluation criterion and their message and their values and their belief system, well, they have you thinking that Celine Dion can out sing Whitney
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely,
because you
definitely.
don't have your own mind, you don't have your own evaluation criterion. And
Hmm.
what makes this so much worse is quite simply that our people are beholden to them. Black Jerry was beholden to these white folk who terrorized him psychologically for a full year because they're his lifeline for him to be able to eat.
Hmm.
And one of the things that is just a truism that will probably be true to the end of time, poor people can't talk shit
Hmm.
because you're going to have to curtail and curb your tongue and your viewpoints, your thoughts even to keep their job.
Mm-hmm. Doc, you would have to tell me this, but throughout history, were black workers who didn't conform to the speed or the style of white workers, white laborers, then they were given a label of slow or lazy, especially the lazy one. Can you discuss how this label is used to justify lower pay and also harsher treatment?
Well, I mean, the thing is that to be conscious in America, to have gone through the educational system, to going through living life and the images that you receive, you have to be racially biased. And I
Mm,
don't care if you're black or white, you're going to be racially biased. To undo that, you're going to have to do a whole lot of work inside of you. But the idea of black folk being lazy, and we're talking about, you just finished talking about changing the narrative. Let's be very clear. Nobody, if hard work was the only thing you needed to get ahead in America, hell, we'd run America and the universe. We'd run the Milky Way. There's no
exactly.
doubt. No one has worked harder than we have. So it's a clear sign that number one, work is not all that you have to do to get ahead in America. There are a lot of other things that are involved in that. But the idea, this is to show you how ludicrous and crazy it actually is. The idea that black folk are lazy has its genesis in slavery, of all places.
Mm,
That black folk are stupid and that they are
mm,
lazy. What white folk didn't realize then, and what they often don't realize now, is quite simply that our slow work pace is a form of rebellion. When we pick cotton, they would weigh the cotton bag. So if they're going to weigh the cotton bag to determine, if you're going to get a beating or not, throw a couple rocks in there, throw a brick or two. So on the one hand, you'd have made your quota, but on the other hand, they're going to have a idea, because what are they going to do with that cotton? They're going to put that cotton in the cotton gin, and as soon as them rocks and what have you hit that cotton gin, it's going to destroy it. Now you can sit there and, oh, I thought there was some cotton that I had to put in there. Negro, good and well there wasn't no cotton you put up in there. Okay, but you're going to act that way. You're going to, you're going to find us taking long lunch breaks because F you. Okay, we ain't getting paid no more for this.
Right.
We're not slow-minded to the point where we don't understand what it is exactly that y'all are doing. Y'all are working the shit out of us, and y'all are taking all of the profit off of it. One of the best things that the American system ever did was create a minimum wage. Because if they didn't have a minimum wage, they'd be paying people 13 cents an hour. And that's what it comes down to. So, and the most despicable thing, and you saw it in the video of all, is quite simply that these poor, uneducated white laborers, unskilled laborers, are so wedded to whiteness that they can't see the natural allies that are sitting right in the room with them. That if you join forces with other working class people, if your analysis, if your emphasis was upon class and not solely and exclusively upon race, you could get yourself out of this situation you're in. Because all of y'all could go on strike. All of y'all could lead a renegotiation, but you won't do it because you don't want to sit down and cooperate with a bunch of niggas. And that has been the thing that has kept y'all chained. And it's the reason why right now Black people are, how can I put it? We laughing our asses off right about now. Because if poverty has not done anything else over the last couple centuries, it's made us tough. We know that we're gonna make it. Y'all in trouble. Okay. Y'all filled with anxiety. You don't know what's gonna happen. You thought that somehow they was gonna let your old food stamps make it through and just cut off the Black ones. It ain't work out that way. And in what we got, like 4 more days left this year? Oh, you wait till them subsidies for your health insurance go away.
Exactly.
You gonna go back to them old remedies. Get some witch hazel out. You go out in the woods and get some roots together. Blend that together. I think that's what me and all used to blend together to break a fever, because your health system is going to be devastated.
Absolutely.
There you go.
I want to go to something and point out Miss Life Lessons said, referring to Jerry, where is it? Yeah, that one of the white employees told the police that Jerry was the whitest Black man, right? And so with that saying, Jerry, would you assume, because I'm assuming by that statement,
I know Jerry's world.
Yeah, that Jerry did not like his own people. Would you say that? Would that be your conclusion from when the white man says that Jerry is the whitest Black man that he ever knew?
I hesitate to fully go there because he has to have some racial consciousness to be bothered by their jokes and their rude comments. So he has to have something there, something left there.
Okay.
I think that this worker is actually saying that culturally, Jerry is in lockstep with them. That Jerry likes the music they like. Jerry likes the movies they like, the cultural things about it. The idea of him hating his own people, I think that he was more than likely shunned and ostracized from black folk
Mm.
and made a and let's be honest, this was the the bet that Clarence Thomas made. And that is quite simply that if he's good enough, that blackness will not be that big of a factor, that white America will invite him in. I think that that's what Jerry's doing. Jerry is trying to live a race neutral life in a racialized nation that doesn't
Mm.
see it that way.
Mm. 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 Wow. So you think that he was kind of like ostracized out of the black community?
I believe so. I believe that, a person like Jerry would probably gravitate towards whatever social circle tolerated him. I'll use that word, tolerated him, not welcomed him, and what have you. And having a because he clearly says that the white guy was his best friend,
Right. Hmm.
despite all of the things that the white guy did and said and how he treated
Hmm.
him and berated him. But Jerry still has some semblance of pride and self-esteem of don't talk to me like that. But he doesn't sever that relationship. And none of us know, but let's if we can go into projecting and
Right.
filling in some holes, breaking that best friendship would have probably left Jerry completely alone. And the fact that the boss knew about what Jerry had put up on Facebook means that
Hmm.
they had to be Facebook friends, means that they had their lives had to be immersed. His life was immersed and intertwined with them.
Hmm.
And the thing that probably made him burst, explode, is that he didn't have a black outlet. Excuse me, that basically said, man, F them white folk and go ahead and come on over here with us, man.
Right.
Because let's be very honest about the average workday experience for black folk.
Hmm.
Our best part is when we leave
Hmm.
and we go and we're around our own people. That's the best part. We're not necessarily. I mean, black folk. Do you know that go to what do they call it after they get off of work, happy hour? Yeah,
Right.
we trying to get away from y'all.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Exactly.
if you don't have that release valve, and this pressure continues to grow on you on and on, yeah, you're going to explode. You got to have something when you're dealing with them. Jerry should have went out and got him a dog, and when
Mm.
he got off, he went and spent time. He would have been better off.
Hmm.
You go and spend time with your dog. That gives
Right.
you something to look forward in the day, versus
Hmm.
your entire day from your work day to when you're off. You're still surrounded by them. Don't you want a break from them?
Hmm.
And that's where you can kind of see the developmental.
Okay, you back. Yeah, froze up. What was the last thing you said, Doc?
That's where you see sort of the developmental issues coming in, that
Mm.
he's not taking a break from them. They're with him in the morning when he wakes up, because he has to go into work. He's got to deal with that anxiety. Then he's got to
Mhm.
deal with the actual antics and disrespect that they show. Then when he gets off, they're on his Facebook, probably sending him messages here and there. So they're
Mm.
monitoring him. Jerry doesn't
Mm.
have any room to breathe, as Najee would put it.
Mm, mm, mm. Doc, when you look at this part of him calling him slow, dealing with the black male studies, how often is that label used as a tool against our own humanization?
Oh, frequently. I mean, you're dealing with all of these different diagnoses, ADHD, this and
Mhm.
that, and they're just tracking them from the very beginning and putting them in situations where they know that they can't succeed. If you take a boy, you take anyone, and you take them out of mainstream education for 5, 6 years, take them out when they're in the third grade, when they get to high school, they're so far behind. When you try and integrate them, they can't keep up because they don't know those things that have been taught, and that's no fault of their own. But the idea of something being wrong with your mind, you being slow, you being this and that, that's been an old dodge that has occurred as long as the American educational system integrated. It's
Mm,
what they do. They don't
mm,
they don't believe because they're entering in. It's the exact same thing that you see with the trial. The exact same thing. That there's so much room for us to interject our opinion,
mhm,
our quote unquote diagnosis of what's going on. So you come in here, you make a diagnosis that he has this going on mentally, and don't put it back past them to say, "Oh, I believe he's schizophrenic." That this is,
mhm,
so now for him to go to school, for him to get any, services, he's going to have to go on this medicine. And many of these people who are making these medical diagnoses, these aren't good people. And
mm,
many of them know that they're lying.
mm, mm,
Oh,
mm,
you sit there, I mean, come on. We done all been through a negative job review.
mhm,
And it comes down to what this person who quote unquote has the power over you is saying.
mhm,
That's what the reality is, and that's what they're going to write down.
mm, mm. So, what would you say that the proper thing? Because Jerry, he went to the dang boss, and the boss played it off like, "Look here, nigga, get on out my face. Just do what you're told." So he had no recourse there
Well,
within
he's got a
the
recourse. He showed you his recourse,
other than killing people. Um,
but that is a recourse.
true, true, true. Um, is there is besides actually separating, walking away from that work environment? Is there anything else that he could have done without killing them to maintain his own sense of self, his own sense of righteousness? Is there anything else that he could have done?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Step one would have been leave. You have to stop. You have to get yourself to a point where you truly do understand that God is your source, that He is your provider. It's not like Jerry was getting rich
Mm-hmm.
over there
Mm-hmm.
working with them. You can go get another shit job somewhere else, Jerry. Go
Mm-hmm.
wash cars. Go this and that. But the entire thing reeks of a community, our community, failing him.
Mm,
That's the problem right there. That we failed him, and we didn't just fail Jerry in regards to being able to give him advice. We failed Jerry by not developing a reasonable job opportunity for him within our community. Because in many ways, we're too busy going over there and getting them white folk to put our fence up.
mm, mm. Exactly. Exactly. So do you think that, you know, because unfortunately there's going to be a next Jerry, right? It's just going to
Next
happen.
Jerry, they're Jerry's right now.
Right, right. And, it brings me, I don't know if you remember, but a few years ago, there was a black Amazon worker who
Mhm.
was fed up, took his gun to work, and was starting pow, 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 letting it be known, y'all racist, y'all keep mistreating me, and I'm just tired of it. So, you wouldn't stop before, so now I'm going to put a permanent end to your foolishness. Now, I've heard some people about this story actually equate that to a suicide bomber from Palestine. Now, when I heard that, Doc, I stopped and I said, "Well, wait a minute. The Palestinians that put bombs on themselves and walk in there to blow the place up, they're saying, I've had enough, and you won't do anything else. But now I got to give you what you've been giving me." So, there's like a justification for the suicide bomber.
But the only difference I would see in that is quite simply that Jerry's doing that to solve his individual problem. Palestinians are addressing a larger issue of the race. They're doing that for the race, for the collective. Jerry is aggrieved primarily because they have repudiated him. Now, we see brothers going up in places that they don't work and they have no connection to, and they're blowing things up, then that would be sort of a better equating of those two things. But by and large, it brings you back once again to the idea of the I. And our people are hella linked into the I. They're more concerned about what is done to them individually than what has and is happening to us collectively. And until that gets worked out, you got some problems. Because as long as you're individualistic, you're playing you're involved in a collective game. You can say whatever you want to say about Michael Jordan, LeBron, whoever you want to name. Put them out there on a basketball court against a team and see what they can do. And the reason why we're not looking at things collectively is that you haven't been taught outside of the family structure, the home. How many families are saying, "Listen, we just all for black folk"? No, they'll say, "Well, look, somebody messed with one of ours, then we gonna put it on." And by and large, they're talking about black folk. Where was Jerry's support system? Where was his community? And what is it about Jerry that kept Jerry from doing his part to develop that black solidarity amongst his people? Instead of doing that, Jerry is over there with the mother folk.
Miss Life Lessons makes a very good comment. She says, "We are in the same predicament as Jerry."
Yes.
And looking at it from that lens, how would you prescribe the thing that must be done to prevent you going to jail for the rest of your life like Jerry? Because you still got to make money. You still got to pay your bills. You still got to take care of your family.
Know thyself and recognize what your limit is. You got to understand what your limit is. When is enough? The problem that you're going to have to deal with is quite simply trusting God and understanding that this ain't the only place where you can make a living. And we're going through such a shift right now with AI and different things like that. The idea, and I have students who crack up when they ask me how long have I worked at my job, and I tell them I've been here for 23, now going on 24 years. And they're like, wow, really? And these are kids who are now oriented to the point where it's all about hustling and being an entrepreneur. And they're like, I said, do y'all believe in a 2 weeks notice? And their response was, when they decided to fire me, did they give me 2 weeks to get myself ready to be out here without a job? They're like, yo, that's your answer right there. One student told me, I'll go on break and not come back. Different orientation, but we need to recognize that and just be honest. We need to have conversations with each other so that you understand that you ain't the only one. And out of those conversations with each other, you can help each other.
Definitely. I want to welcome Emerald Jules to the program. Peace and blessings, Queen. We're glad that you're here. And also Earth Angel Remix. Peace and blessings, Queen. We're glad that you're here. So, Doc, as I round up to the last question before we shut down for tonight, we often hear that integration was the prize of the civil rights movement. But looking at Jerry, we see a man who was economically integrated, but psychologically incarcerated. And as a student of labor, has the pursuit of an integrated paycheck become the trap that requires Black men to leave our manhood at the door? At what point? Okay, I'll go ahead and let you answer that. Go ahead.
Give me the first part again. Give me the first part.
Okay. The first part is that we wanted this integrated paycheck. Has it become a trap for Black men that we have to leave our manhood at the door?
Most certainly. Most certainly. I mean, the idea of, and I dispute the idea of the accomplishment of the civil rights movement was integration, because you're still not integrated. This is not integration that we're dealing with, and we should be very clear upon that. Integration is something that we've never seen. What you're seeing now, what the civil rights movement's greatest accomplishment was that in 1965, with LBJ signing the Voting Rights Act, for the first time in the history of this nation, Black folk on the law books of America were equal. And that was buttressed by a 68 Civil Rights Act following the 64 Civil Rights Act. So Black folk became equal. You became first-class citizens during that time. There is no law that white folk have that you're not covered by as well. Now, the application of that law is a whole different discussion. So when you have to go, and I don't care what venue you're dealing with, and you have to go in there and you have to barter and trade your time and your labor for a paycheck that you need to exist. I don't care who you are. You're going to have to check your individuality and who you are at the door. Otherwise, you're not going to get that check. Think about a figure like J.R. Ryder, one of the greatest shooting guards the NBA has ever seen. But J.R. Ryder wanted to act a fool. Alone, J.R. Ryder, his skills hadn't diminished, but J.R. Ryder was out the league. And we're probably going to see the same thing eventually happen with the brilliant brother down in Memphis, John Morant. They're only going to put up with so much of your foolishness before they show you. And when they show you and lock you out, you're done. So in lieu of that paycheck, you're going to have to check. You're going to have to take that bass out your voice when you come up in here. And that's kind of what you saw with the situation with Jerry. Unless you have a significant connection to the owner, there's certain things that you're just not going to be allowed to do. I mean, you think about the owner's best choke somebody.
Exactly.
He choked a white person.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And when you have grown men going in there pleading with you, well, you're going to tell me to stop doing that, or I'm going to have to leave here. Yeah, check your manhood, because you're that's part of, you can kind of look at it like when people go into work at a factory or whatever, and they have lockers, and they're putting their clothes in the locker, getting their work clothes up. One of the things that you're putting in that locker is your manhood, your ability to stand up here and talk and tell people when something is not right. Person who just got caught up in this, Chris Paul. Okay, Chris Paul got cut. They sent his ass home because he was being too disruptive to everybody. And it wasn't even a thing that what he was saying was incorrect. He was correct. But we ain't trying to hear that right about now. You ain't no all-star no more. Sit your ass down. That's a part of employment. And that's why, once again, poor people who need a check can't talk shit.
Wow. And so my other part of that question is, at what point does our participation in these toxic white-owned systems cross the line from providing for our families to psychological suicide for the benefit of our oppressors?
The moment you walk in, that's the deal. They're going to pay you a pittance for you to be able to maintain you and yours enough so that you're able to come in here and function. You know, her name was Kay. She was one of my mother's best friends, and it was my first job. I was working at Gorman Rupp, a company where my mother worked, and she told me this. She said, "Always remember this. They can get anybody to do the job. What they're paying you for is to put up with their shit." And there, in a nutshell, is what it means to be a black laborer. They can get anybody to do what it is you're doing, but who can stomach and tolerate the psychological abuse, the uncertainty that they're going to put you through? And whoever does that is going to be able to keep the job long term. And that's why, if you're going to be engaged with these people within their system, it is so important that you go ahead and find some other outlets to bolster your esteem, to clear your mind, to do whatever it is that you have to. It isn't accidental that you see so many brothers who are middle class, working class, even poor, smoking and drinking once they leave the job, because they're looking for an escape route from what it is that they just encountered and what they're going to have to go into. It's the reason why we are so celebratory on the weekends, that we go out and we just do it on the weekend. That's one of the main reasons. We're trying to squeeze out some joy out of life. It's almost like a seesaw, a teeter-totter, that on the one end you're going to be down, but until you get paid, and once you get paid, then you go ahead and party for a little bit, go on a trip or what have you, do whatever you need to do. But then you got to come back and you got to get on that teeter-totter one more again. And it's what life is. And until you come up with a point, until you come up with a plan, you can slow it down enough, and you come up with a plan to go ahead and in every way become an entrepreneur, make your own money.
Wow. Well, that's definitely what we have to do. We have to be able to do for self, because that is the solution to all of our problems. We are at our shutdown point. And in your closing comments, Doc, can you talk about also the point of, and I guess this would be mental clarity, I guess, um, because there's a certain point where providing ends and self betrayal begins. And when you're continually looking at it and understanding that, you're really hurting yourself, you're betraying yourself.
Certainly.
That conversation has to be had. Can you address that in your closing comments?
Well, I mean, the thing is that we have to break it out, and I'll use our people's what I consider a silly term, a silly concept. We got to break these generational curses of relying upon people outside of ourselves, outside of our community, outside of our families for our livelihood. There was a time where that was almost a necessity for our people. Those days are gone. They're gone. We got to start looking at this thing through a completely new lens. You have brothers out here who are geniuses at economics. You have financial institutions who would give you a loan if you learn how to create a business plan, this and that. Who will give you a loan, and you can go off and you can start your own. But so much of it is going to be, regardless of what you do, it's going to hinge upon the idea of your ability as a community to support each other. And without a collective, just agreement of we're going to help each other, you're sunk because you're competing with other people who have more numbers, who are better resourced. They circulate their dollar, okay? And you think that you're going to be able to in an undisciplined way ever catch them. You never will. So it's back to basics. It's back to, we have to start somewhere. And I'll tell you quite honestly, if Black folk would just agree to spend $10 a month with a Black business, that would be such a infusion of cash for Black businesses that it would build momentum to a whole lot of other things. But what I'm seeing, and I cringed when I saw this. I saw that Black Wall Street is having a celebration, Tulsa, Oklahoma, or the Greenwood section of Tulsa. And what I saw on their advertisement were people on motorcycles, okay, people drinking, people eating, people partying. My mind went to number one, who manufactured the motorcycle? Number two, where'd you get the gas from? Number three, who's creating the majority of the liquor and alcohol that you're consuming? Number four, who prepared the food? Probably Black folk, but if Black folk prepared it, I guarantee you that it was white craftsmen who built the restaurant that the Black folk are renting from them, and all the materials that are inside of it. So it's the same as it ever was. Slow things down and get to a point where you're just start with the basics. You're supporting each other. Get used to supporting each other. I'm in Kansas City right now, and it's cold. And my wife, she when it's cold, man, I take naps. Um, but she wanted a hat, and she has a girlfriend whose daughter has is apparently a wizard at quilting and crocheting or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
She bought a hat for $25 from her. You know, cash app at 25 to the young lady was like, yo, I got the hats here. She goes over there to collect the hat and gives her an opportunity to see one of her high school friends picking up a product that she bought from her daughter. You know, that's beautiful, very beautiful. And I thought somebody had robbed me, to be honest with you, because when I grabbed my phone, and it had that Cash App symbol, and it was a heart up on it. I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute, somebody just sent some money out of my account. And it turned out it was them. So it's a situation of getting your mind right, being collective, being strategic, and loving on each other. Somebody should have loved Brother Jerry enough that he felt comfortable around our people, and Brother Jerry should have loved himself enough to feel comfortable around his kind. Because regardless of what's said, like usually does better by sticking with like.
Definitely, definitely. Excellent, excellent. And so, what I'm going to do, because I have Jerry's address where he's being locked up at, he was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. So, I would like everybody, and I'll put it in the comments at the in the video, down in the comments section. I'll pin it there where all of us can send Jerry a little note, because I really believe he could use that. So I hope everybody do.
One of the things that crossed my mind while I was looking at him be interrogated was I wondered what type of attorney he had, and if someone in that community within that state would be able to at least inquire about did he have apt legal representation or not.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, I look at it and I understand the sending of him a note, but let's do that in addition to asking, inquiring as to, because it would have been a totally different story if he had suitable legal representation. I know they would have convicted him, but I don't think he would have got life, because if anybody has some extenuating circumstances, Black Jerry did.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, I agree with that 1,000%. He definitely did. So, Doc, you want to move to closing comments? What's your
love being here. Glad that we're here, and our commitment to doing this. Like I said, I'm in Kansas City, and we got our heads together, and we said we came on early because I'm supposed to be at an event right now that I'm gonna run to after I get off here. I'm in Kansas City with my in-laws and what have you, but it's all up, and let's continue to build. Let's continue to love on each other, understand each other, and try to figure this thing out. And I yield with that, brother. Love you all.
Yes, sir. Love you too, Doc. And we thank everybody for showing up. We thank everybody for commenting. We actually always like, share, and subscribe and push the message out, because we have to rise our message up so that our people can understand it, buy in, and take a part of it and change the directions that their lives are going, if it's going into a negative direction. And again, I will post the address for Brother Jerry. He is in the state of Michigan. I will post that address in the pinned comments. So, definitely looking to see what kind of legal representation that he had, and reach out to him and send him a note of thank you, love, support, so that he knows that, in the end of the day, you're not alone. This is definitely what we have to do for our Jerry. That's right, Miss Life Lessons. Don't call him Black Jerry in your note. Don't do that, because he definitely will go off. But we love all of y'all, and we thank all of y'all for coming and sharing and giving your energy and time. And as we always say, you kill the nigga in you, I'm going to kill the nigga in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
Peace.
Peace. So you better get the message and get it straight.
You're going to need some bridge work. This